Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today I wanted to do a video ranking all of the palettes that I have tried so far in 2022. So these are palettes that I have either bought or received as a gift throughout this year so far, and I've seen a couple other people do this video and I just thought it would be fun to look back at the palettes that I've received this year and rank them for you all. I do just want to preface this video by saying that I do love all of my palettes, but just for the sake of this video, I did rank them. But I don't really hate any of these palettes. I'm so happy to have them all in my collection. So yeah, with that said, we can get into my ranking. So I do have 16 palettes to rank today. So starting at number 16, we have my I Heart Revolution and Disney Mulan palette. So here is what this one looks like on the inside. So if you don't know, I do have the entire I Heart Revolution and Disney Princess collection so far. There are currently 10 palettes in that collection, and it is one of my favorite collections to bring in and purchase. I love Disney princesses, so I think it's so fun, and I always am so excited about their color stories. But this one is my least favorite from the year so far. This color story just kind of confuses me a little bit. I've said it before with this palette, but it's just not the most cohesive color story in my opinion. I get what they were trying to do with the Mulan theme for most of it, but honestly, it's just not one that I find myself reaching for a whole lot, just because I'm not entirely sure what to do with it when I look into it. But I am, of course, still happy to have it in my collection and continue collecting the princess palettes. But this one is number 16 so far this year. Alright, next up, number 15 is my beautiful Shellz Love Is palette. So here is what this one looks like. So this is a palette that the brand actually included for free in my order when I purchased from them. So little spoiler, I do have two other palettes from this brand that I will be sharing in this video, because I placed an order earlier this year and they were kind enough to send me this palette as well as the two that I purchased. So this one is ranking lower simply because I just haven't really used it yet. Which is kind of sad because I've had it for a few months now, but it just hasn't been a palette that I have particularly wanted to reach for over some of the other palettes in my collection. The only shade I've used in here is this glitter, and I used it for my nails, and I did really like how that looked, so I think that is how I will use these glitter shades in here. But as for the top 6 shades, those are just ones that I do need to reach for and test out, because I do enjoy the other two palettes that I brought from this brand, and swatching these shades out, they do look nice, so it is one I know I will use, but just so far it hasn't really excited me enough to use it quite yet. But yeah, it's one I am still happy to have, and I am very thankful that the brand did send it to me. Next up, number 14 is my Ulta Beauty Desert Skies palette. So here is what this one looks like. So this is just a really nice neutral palette, and when I first purchased this palette, I was so excited about it, and when I got it, I used it a few times, and then after that I just kind of stopped, and honestly I'm not really sure why, because every time I reach into this palette I do enjoy the look that I create. But I don't know, it's just a little more on the boring side. I hate using the word boring with my eyeshadow palettes, but compared to some of the other palettes that I do have in my collection, which are a little more colorful and fun, this one is just obviously a lot more on the neutral side, which is why I liked it. But there are just more palettes in my collection that excite me a little bit more. But if you love neutrals, if you love more warm tone shades, this is a really, really great palette, and I do really enjoy it. Alright, number 13 on the opposite end of that is my Delancey Panda palette. So this one is a very cool toned gray palette, And the reason this is ranking where it is because I don't wear grays all that often, but I did find that I was lacking grays in my collection. Like when I wanted a gray or cool tone look like this, I didn't really have those good shades to use on my eyes. So that's why I bought this palette, and I am so happy that I did. I feel like it just filled a spot in my collection that wasn't previously filled. So I am very happy to have this palette in my collection. I think it's absolutely adorable with the panda theme, but on the whole, this is not a palette that I'm going to reach for on a daily basis. It's more just for like a special occasion or when I want this cool tone gray look. So I am, of course, very happy to have it in my collection, but if I look at it compared to the other palettes that I have brought into my collection this year, this just isn't one that I'm going to use over those ones. Alright, next up, number 12, we have my Nabla Poison Garden palette. So this one does have a really pretty color story, but for some reason it's just not one that I find myself gravitating towards over others in my collection. I have created a couple looks that I absolutely adore with this palette. I created one for a video and then one I just posted on my Instagram. And I really loved those looks. I do enjoy the looks I create every time I reach into this palette. It has a really good formula, but I feel like this is just going to be the case with all of the palettes in this video. I had to rank them somewhere, and this is just where it fell. So it's not a bad palette by any means. There are just other palettes that I like a little bit more, either based on the color story or the theming of it or whatever. But I do still really love this palette. Alright, now we are on to number 11. And that goes to my beautiful Shellz Karma Chameleon Quad. This is the peach version. So here is what this one looks like on the inside. I really do love this palette. I love this duochrome shade over here. It is absolutely stunning. But on the whole, quads are not something I reach for over a palette that has more shades than this. I just feel a little bit more limited when it comes to quads, which obviously there are less shades, so that makes sense. But I just prefer to have a palette where I can create a variety of different looks, and I don't feel like this palette gives that to me, but this is still a really, really nice palette. I think the quality of it is really nice, and I am so happy to be supporting this brand. They are just the sweetest. They're the ones that sent that Love Is palette to me, along with this palette and the other one that I purchased. And they also have given me an affiliate link, which is always linked in my description, and I do earn a small commission if you use it, which I would really appreciate. But I really do just enjoy their palettes. They're just a very sweet brand from my experience with them, but I just didn't feel like I wanted to rank this any higher, just simply because there isn't as much variety within this palette as there are with some of the other palettes that I have purchased this year. Alright, then number 10, along the same lines, is the other Karma Chameleon quad that I purchased. This one is the Iris quad. So here's what this one looks like. I like this one just a little bit more. It's not as wearable as the peach one is, in my opinion, but I feel like there is quite a bit of variety with this palette with only 4 shades. I have done a 3 looks 1 palette video with this, and I was able to get 3 fairly different looks out of it, which is really nice because, like I said, that's what I look for with my palettes. I would like to be able to create a variety of different looks with it. So this one just has a little more excitement and variety in it as compared to the previous quad, but once again, it is still just a quad, so there are palettes that I have that I like a little bit more than this, but once again, really love this brand, and I really do enjoy this palette. Alright, next up, number 9. I feel like this is where it started getting really tricky for me. Like, these next few are ones that I kind of struggled with where to place them. But this is my Nabla Secret palette. So here is what this one looks like on the inside. It does have a really beautiful color story, and I do really enjoy it. This one does get me quite a bit of variety within it because you have your more neutral shades, but you have those pops of color, which is really nice. But this isn't a palette that I have found myself reaching for that much since I got it, which kind of surprised me because I thought this one might be my favorite out of the Nabla palettes that I purchased. But this one is still a really nice palette. I really enjoy Nabla's formula. I think it is just super nice. So if this is a color story that does interest you, then I would really recommend this palette. Alright, next up, my number 8 palette is going to go to my I Heart Revolution and Looney Tunes Tweety palette. So if you couldn't tell, I really like I Heart Revolution. I feel like I have quite a few palettes of theirs in this ranking. I have purchased quite a few from them this year. So this is the Tweety palette. I think it is just absolutely adorable. I really love their collabs. I think they do such a good job with them, and they're always ones that interest me. So yeah, I really do love this palette. The only reason this one isn't ranking higher is because I've only used it once, just in my first impressions video, and I really did enjoy it, but I haven't yet tested out all of the shades, and only using a palette once, as much as I might like it when I do try it out, I feel like I just can't really rank it much higher, and there are color stories still that I do prefer over this one, but this one is a really fun summery palette. I think it's so cute, and of course I love the theme of it as well. So next up for number 7, we have my Nabla Dreamy palette. So here is what this one looks like. This one just has a really nice, more neutral color story, but these are the kind of neutrals that I like, the more purpley pink neutrals like this. And I do think it is a very pretty palette. And once again, just the formula of these shades is so nice, and I have really enjoyed the looks that I've created with this palette, but I haven't used it all that much, and it is more on the neutral side, so there are color stories that I do prefer from the palettes that I have purchased this year, but overall this is a really, really nice palette. Alright, next up, number 6 is going to go to my I Heart Revolution Moana palette. So here is what this one looks like. I am in love with the color story that they did for this palette. I think it is just so pretty, and every time I look at it, I just fall more and more in love with it. I think they did a really nice job with this palette, and yeah, the reason this one isn't ranked as high are simply just because there are color stories that I prefer from the palettes that I've purchased, which is kind of hard to believe because I really do enjoy this one. But yeah, these top 6 are all just like, they're so good in my opinion. I have really just fallen in love with each of them. So yeah, this one, I don't have anything bad to say about this palette, but this is just simply where it fell in the ranking. Alright, top 5, we have my BH Cosmetics Miss Claus So Spoiled palette. So this was a palette that I received as a gift at the very beginning of this year. It was a Christmas gift, but I didn't get it until this year. But this palette was not on my radar at all. I don't even know if I had seen a picture of it before I received it. But I really, really like this palette. I think it has such a cute color story, and the looks that I have created with this palette, I just really have enjoyed. And yeah, once again, I don't really have anything bad to say about this palette. This is just where it fell in the ranking. There are just a few palettes that I liked a little bit more than this, but I really, really am so happy to have this in my collection. Alright, number 4 is going to go to my I Heart Revolution Tangled palette. So This one released at the same time as the Moana palette, and they are the newest releases from the Princess collection. But I just really love this color story as well. I think this one gives such a nice amount of variety within it, but I can still create everyday looks with it. I can go a little bit more on the fun, colorful side, and there's just something about this color story that I really do enjoy, and I am so happy to have this palette in my collection. Like I said, I love collecting these princess palettes. Every time that a brand collaborates with Disney, I am just all over it. I absolutely love it. I don't think I will ever get sick of it. So yeah, I really love this entire collection, and I really, really love this palette. Alright, my top 3. Number 3 goes to the new Nomad Province palette. I think this palette is so stunning. Nomad always does a beautiful job with their packaging, and then the color story inside is just so pretty. I have done 2 videos with this palette, so I did a first impressions video where I created 2 looks, and then I just did a video last week, I believe, where I created another look with this palette, and I have just really enjoyed the shades in here. I think it is a really somewhat unique color story in my opinion. I feel like I have similar shades to some of them in my collection, but as a whole color story together, I feel like this is fairly unique in my collection. So I am just really happy to have this palette. I love Nomad as a brand as well. So yeah, this palette I have just really enjoyed playing around with and using, and I am so happy to have it in my collection. Okay, number 2 is going to go to my Colourpop Sweet as Can Be palette. So this was their collab with Winnie the Pooh, which, once again, I love my collabs. I know some people aren't the biggest fan of collabs, but there are certain ones that just really get me, and this is definitely one of them. I love Winnie the Pooh, and this color story as well is just so, so cute. I have really enjoyed the shades in here, the performance of them. I have really loved the looks that I've created with this palette, and it's so cute. I just seriously cannot say enough good things about this palette. I just really love it. Alright, now the moment you have all been waiting for, my number 1 palette from this year is going to go to the I Heart Revolution Oh the Places You'll Go palette. I did not expect to love this palette as much as I do. I seriously cannot get enough of this palette. I think it is so cute. I really only purchased this just because I wanted to buy something from the Dr. Seuss collection that I Heart Revolution came out with, and this is the palette that had appealed to me the most. I just kind of thought, like, yeah, it's really cute. I'll enjoy it. I'll like having it in my collection, but I have loved this palette. I think the quality of it, while it's not the absolute best that I've tried, is really nice. And I don't know, there's just something about this palette that just excites me, makes me want to use it, and I seriously just love this palette so much. I cannot get enough of it, and I just had to rank it number 1 today from the palettes that I have tried in 2022 because it is truly my favorite one from this year, and I am just so incredibly happy to have this one in my collection. So that will conclude my ranking of all of the palettes that I have received in 2022. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what your favorite palette of the year so far is, and also let me know if you would like to see me update this video at the end of the year, because I am sure I will bring in more palettes before the year is up, because I just love my eyeshadow palettes so much. So let me know if that is something that would interest you as well. Give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future uploads. And with all of that said, I will see you in my next video. Bye!